So there's this director named Celine Song, who's an interesting director because she's only made 2 movies so far, including the one that I'm reviewing right now. The one that I'm talking about first is Past Lives, which quickly is one of her best work. Obviously, that's like her first directed movie. It was basically about two individuals, that know each other from childhood, and then growing up and falling in love, and then the question of being soulmates or actually being in love. Like, it was one of them type of things, and it didn't have a happy ending, obviously, but the story and the whole movie was great. I absolutely like Past Lives. Now on to The Materialist. It stars Chris Evans, Dakota Johnson, and Pedro Pascal, who's everywhere right now, from this to Eddington to the Fantastic Four. Wild year for him. It's basically about Dakota Johnson being this matchmaker who meets with one of the rich people that she does business with doing the matchmaking thing, which is Pedro Pascal. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, meets her ex-boyfriend, which is Chris Evans. And then they do a little back and forth, like a little romance comedy that you expect. If you watch these trailers, that's what this basically gives off, a romantic comedy. And this is the type of movie that you're thinking it is. I don't know. This movie is interesting because this movie is basically about marriage and true love. Like, is love a business where you need a person to, have money, have a good education, have a good childhood? Does he or she need those things in order to get with the person that they want to get with? Or do they want to get with somebody that they truly love regardless of any of those things, which is materialist? That's what they call it. And I thought that those type of things were interesting to me because Chris Evans and Pedro Pascal does an amazing job playing their roles. Chris Evans represents the person that doesn't have it together, that's trying to live out his dream as an actor, but still couldn't get to that goal, that mountaintop. He still lives in a gross apartment with roommates. He still has to work, job by job just to get by, and he doubts himself. Where you have Pedro Pascal as this rich person who can get anybody he wants because he's rich, he's quote unquote tall, able to communicate with everybody, nice to people, but at the same time, for some reason, he can't. That's a description for him. But also the difference is Chris Evans was able to easily love somebody that he already loves, and Pedro Pascal has a hard time loving somebody, and that is his one flaw, and that is Chris Evans' bigger quality about him. And then you had Dakota Johnson, who dates these two individuals and had to make a decision on, is love, do I need somebody that can offer me these things, money, knowledge, and making me value, or do I go with somebody that makes me feel like I can love this person no matter what they're going through? And that's the theme of the movie. You would think that by watching the trailer, and it does follow through with that throughout 30 minutes or to the hour of this movie. The thing is that throws it off is that there's a twist to it, and it involves something very, very serious that if you put something in here in this type of movie, it gotta result into something that blends together, because if it doesn't, then it's just awkward. Celine Song does that here, and it don't blend well at all. In fact, they didn't even need to put one plot here that has serious topics, because it ended up being an afterthought seeing the result of this movie. You're like, you don't need this here. When you first meet Dakota Johnson, she says, with her customers or her partners that work with her to matchmake, she says everybody needs like qualities in order to get with the person they want to get with. in their opinion, right? They say you gotta be at least over 6 foot. You gotta have money. You gotta have a good education. You gotta have all these things in order to at least get a good woman. So saying that, it's like the same thing with this plot. Like, it has everything. It has good back and forth dialogue, good acting. It has all that, but it has one blemish that just ruins the whole movie, and it just bothers you through the rest of it once the twist comes by. And you're like, dang, y'all had everything going for y'all. And another thing, right? Dakota Johnson is good because they want her to portray as this cold person, and she's really good at that. If you've seen her in her other movies, she acts as that. But I feel when she was with Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans, I feel like those two carried the relationship and the chemistry more than Dakota Johnson would in each of those relationships. Like, I felt Chris Evans' love for Dakota Johnson, and I felt Pedro Pascal's love for Dakota Johnson, then Dakota Johnson loving those two. And obviously with Pedro Pascal, it makes sense because she's making the relationship more of a business, and he has qualities that she needs in order to live a better life. So it makes sense that she don't feel, but that she does feel something, but she don't feel entirely with him, you know, with her feelings and all that. With Chris Evans, it's like, this is the person that you want to be with. This is the person that, quote unquote, you actually love, yet you still feel the same way as you do with Pedro Pascal, which don't make sense. But luckily, two of those individuals make the chemistry work, and so it doesn't even, bother. But still, I feel like Dakota Johnson didn't go through the end of the bargain, and they had to, and Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans had to carry all that. But dang, that one twist, that one blemish, if it wasn't there, this would probably be a 4 out of 5, because I thought this was a really good movie. In spite of, Dakota Johnson, not doing what she needs to do in order to make the chemistry even stronger, because I don't think her chemistry with those two individuals was as good as, the two actors in Past Lives. But that's okay, because Past Lives is like really good, and I expected to make her get that chemistry twice with her actors, Celine Song's actors. Man, this could have been really solid, but now since they have that twist, it just doesn't make sense to me. Also, they show a beginning and end of, it's not really a spoiler because it's right at like 10 minutes. They show these cave people and showing, the relationship and how it all starts. And I just thought that was interesting. Not negative or positive. It was just more of like, this is interesting in the way they put it all together. So that's basically it. The Materialist, it's a different type of movie. So if you're expecting it to be a romance comedy, you will be disappointed. Even though it still does have those elements throughout the movie, it has something that just drops in the middle of the movie that you're like, what type of movie am I watching? So if you still want to watch it, you might as well go ahead and check it out. So that's it. All right, y'all. Peace.